Well, the Snowden releases, the documents that were released by Ed Snowden continue to be the gift that keeps on giving. Huh? Right? The Huffington Post published some documents last night in coordination with the Danish daily newspaper Information, which worked with American journalist Laura Poitras. Now, Snowden, Poitras, and Glenn Greenwald have been the three driving forces behind this information that is now common knowledge for anyone who wants to pay attention to it. From that treasonous Ed Snowden, how dare he expose the criminal acts and unconstitutional acts and violations of international agreements committed by the U.S. government. How dare he? Right? Is that the way it works? How dare Chelsea Manning release encrypted information that, when decrypted, shows American gunships for sport shooting people down in the streets? No. Chelsea Manning goes to prison, and the people who pulled the trigger probably got medals. Huh? Of course, we can say that about so many people in positions of leadership in this country. Anyway, the latest releases show that the NSA monitored the communications of other governments ahead of and during the UN climate negotiations in Copenhagen, Denmark, 4 years ago. Now, the document that was released to Huffington Post and the Danish newspaper was portions were marked top secret. Ooh, top secret. And indicates that the NSA was monitoring the communications of other countries ahead of the conference, and that the NSA intended to continue doing that throughout the meeting. We don't need no stinking permission. Posted on an internal National Security Agency website on December 7, 2009, which happened to have been the first day of the Copenhagen summit. This document states that, quote, analysts here at NSA, as well as our second-party partners, will continue to provide policymakers with unique, timely, and valuable insights into key countries' preparations and goals for the conference, as well as the deliberations within countries on climate change policies and negotiation strategies, end quote. Well, damn and hell, that looks like they just about had all the bases covered. NSA is saying, we'll give you everything. We know every time these people go to the John. We'll give you all the information. Oh, by the way, second-party partners, that refers to the intelligence agencies of the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, with which the U.S. has an intelligence-sharing relationship. The common denominator there is, of course, they all speak English, except one province in Canada where they speak French. But no matter. You notice the French aren't included, nor the Germans. The top secret NSA document goes on, quote, while the outcome of the Copenhagen Climate Change Conference remains uncertain, signals intelligence will undoubtedly play a significant role in keeping our negotiators as well-informed as possible throughout the two-week event, end quote. Signals intelligence, pulling cell phone messages and email messages out of the cloud. The December 2009 meeting in Copenhagen, according to Huffington Post, was the 15th Conference of the Parties. That's what it's called now. To the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, which brings together almost 200 countries to negotiate measures to address rising greenhouse gas emissions and their impact. Of course, the U.S. has never signed off on any of these agreements, but we keep going. Why? Because it's a great diversionary tactic, I would imagine. Now, the Copenhagen Summit, according to Huffington Post, was the first big climate meeting after the election of Obama and was widely expected to yield significant breakthroughs, or a significant breakthrough. Other major developed nations were already part of the 1997 Kyoto Protocol, which set emissions limits, while the United States had famously said, no, don't think so. We're not going to sign up for that. And, of course, we are the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases when the protocol went into effect in 2004. Nah, don't think so. We have a war on terror to fight. You know what I'm saying? We got to keep fracking and digging and punching holes and everything. And golly, that means methane and hydrocarbons and CO2 and all kinds of crap. And sorry, but capitalism first. The two-week meeting in 2009 was supposed to produce an agreement that succeeded the Kyoto Protocol. That would include the United States, as well as China and India, and other countries with these rapidly increasing emissions. See, that was the whole idea. That everybody looked forward. 2009, well, the United States is finally going to get on board. The biggest emitter of poison on Earth is finally going to get on board. Hey, hip, hip, hooray. Not so much. The document that was published at Huffington Post and in the Danish newspaper as a result of more Ed Snowden treason, the document indicates that the NSA planned to gather information as the leaders and negotiating teams of other countries held private discussions throughout the Copenhagen meeting. The NSA document said this, quote, leaders and negotiating teams from around the world will undoubtedly be engaging in intense last-minute policy formulating. At the same time, they will be holding sidebar discussions with their counterparts, details of which are of great interest to our policymakers. End quote. In other words, what they're saying is we are sneaky sons of bitches. We do not believe in open discussion about the single greatest potential catastrophe facing the planet and the human race. No. We'd rather spy. We want to do cloak and dagger stuff. We want to pull stuff out of the air. We want to play that we're, big-ass spies. Now, we're not going to participate in any of this, but we want to know what they're talking about. Huh? The information gathered, according to the documents that Snowden released yesterday, or Huffington Post released yesterday, the information likely would be used to brief U.S. officials, such as Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State at the time, Barack Obama. That's according to the document. The document does not detail how the agency, the NSA, planned to continue gathering information during the summit. Oh, come on. Other than noting that it would be capturing signals intelligence, such as calls and emails. Now, previous disclosures from that traitor Ed Snowden have indicated that the NSA has the ability to monitor the mobile phones of heads of state. Talk about building distrust, right? Now, other documents that Snowden has released indicate that the UK's intelligence service tapped into delegates' email and telephone communications at the 2009 G20 meetings in London, the big economic forum of all the major capitalist countries' government officials, not like Davos, which is where the capitalists get together and decide how they're going to carve up the remains of the human race. Other previous Snowden disclosures documented the surveillance of the G8, the G20 summits in Canada in 2010, the UN Climate Change Conference in Bali in 2007. Is there anything that the NSA has not bugged, tapped into, monitored, recorded, or has access to? Anything? So, published yesterday by the Huffington Post in coordination with the Danish newspaper Information, the latest document dump from Ed Snowden, who deserves all the accolades he can get. Anyone who criticizes Ed Snowden or threatens retribution or wants to put him on trial or whatever, or calls him a traitor or involved in treason, so on and so forth, they immediately identify themselves, immediately, with no qualification. They identify themselves as complete, full-blown fascists. as bad as anything in 1984, the novel, as bad as anything in the East German secret police, the not the Gestapo, but the drawing a blank. As bad as anything in the Iranian Savak, as bad as, I mean, it just goes on and on. On and on. Whole list of mind-bending, super secret, sneaky, fascist organizations. Snowden is doing nothing more than revealing the truth. And the fascists are wetting their pants and threatening death and destruction. The document that we're talking about here also refers to some intelligence gathered ahead of the meeting in 2009, the Copenhagen climate meeting, including a report that, quote, detailed China's efforts to coordinate its position with India and ensure that the two leaders of the developing world are working toward the same outcome, end quote. It refers to another report that, quote, provided advanced details of the Danish proposal and their efforts to launch a rescue plan to save the Conference of the Parties. Now, the Danish proposal was a draft agreement. That's the end of the quote. The Danish proposal was a draft agreement that country's negotiators had drawn up in the months ahead of the summit in consultation with a small number of key countries. The text was leaked to The Guardian of the UK early in the conference, which caused some disarray as countries that were not consulted balked at the idea that it promoted the interests of developed nations and undermined principles laid out in previous climate negotiations. Do you understand that? Secret little side deals being made among the so-called developed nations. What that means is the nations, of course, that are doing the most destruction to the human race, to our genetic structure, to the planet, to every goddamn thing. The interests of developed nations. And that these secret meetings had the additional effect of undermining principles laid out in previous climate negotiations. They just don't take this seriously, do they? The fact is they don't care. Why should they? Climate change is a hoax. None of this is happening. And if it's going to make the earth dry up into a dried, burned-out cinder, it's not going to happen for another couple of hundred years. We'll all be gone. Let's make money and party! Now, as information reports, Danish officials wanted to keep U.S. negotiators from seeing the text in the weeks ahead of the conference. They were worried that it might dim their ambitions in the negotiations for proposed cuts to greenhouse gas emissions. Any talk of cuts had to be kept secret from the U.S. negotiators. And the U.S. negotiators were like, ha, 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 secret from us? Ha, 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 ha. The Danes did share, Huffington Post says, the text with the U.S. and other key nations ahead of the meeting, but the NSA document noting this as advanced details indicates that the U.S. may have already intercepted it. You're going to show us something we don't know anything about? Oh, really? Bring it on. The paragraph referring to the Danish text is marked SI in the Snowden document, which most likely means signals intelligence. They already picked it out of the air, indicating that it came from electronic information intercepted by the NSA rather than being provided to the U.S. negotiators. Now, as Huffington Post says, that could be why U.S. negotiators took the positions they did going into the conference. A Danish official told the newspaper Information, the ones that published this along with Huffington Post, quote, they simply sat back just as we had feared they would if they knew about our document. They made no, they're referring to U.S. negotiators, they made no constructive statements. Obviously, if they had known about our plan since the fall of 2009, it was in their interest to simply wait for our draft proposal to be brought to the table at the summit. They already knew everything that we were going to propose. Members of the Danish delegation indicated in interviews with Information that they thought the American and Chinese negotiators seemed particularly well informed about discussions that had taken place privately behind closed doors. The one Danish official said, particularly the Americans. I was often completely taken aback by what they knew. Oh, come on, rest of the world. You can't be this stupid any longer. Read the Snowden documents. We know every time you poop. Are we to believe that protecting U.S. interests internationally does not occupy position number one of all this spying and surveillance? And what is U.S. interests international? What are they? What are the interests of capitalism? That's all you need to know.